time with Dr. Sangeet and do interact and ask him all sorts of questions that you would need to. I'll come into my duty, that is welcoming everybody. Dr. Sangeet, we normally conduct this series, this webinar, SAFI webinar, with the intention of bringing about a holistic development in our students. So they have the academic and other activities that is happening in the campus. In addition to that, we try to bring people of high repute who have excelled themselves in their various careers so that they can interact and, you know, our students can get first-hand knowledge about how these individuals reach the place where they have. It's on behalf of the Board of Trustees, SAFI Board of Trustees, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim, our keynote speaker today. I would also like to welcome all the Honorable Board of Trustee members, the SAFI benefactors, the guests who have joined us online, and the principal, Imbichikoya sir, the faculty members, Colonel Saab, and above all the students who are eagerly waiting to hear this webinar. So welcome you all to this webinar, and back to you, Anisa.
Thank you so much, Amar sir. Now, let me invite Colonel Nisar Ahmed Sidi, the Chief Operating Officer of SAFI and CS, to introduce the keynote speakers today. Colonel Nisar sir, with his years of leadership experience and exposure, has always been a source of our inspiration, which gives us strength and energy to become better day by day. Please, sir.
Thank you. One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men. But no machine can do the work of an extraordinary man. A wonderful and great afternoon, and may peace be upon all of you. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have amidst us a true leader who has changed ordinary people into extraordinary. I hope you are all ready to take on. A few words about Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim. A BTech from the Manipal Academy, an MBA from PSG College of Technology, and did his doctorate from Banasthali Vidyapeeth University. He is the Vice President and Head of Learning and Talent Development, First Abu Dhabi Bank, FAB, in UAE. He was a team leader of Dubai Human Development Award of Dubai government. It was instituted by the Dubai government. He's also a best-selling author, a TED platform speaker, of course, a PhD holder. Dr. Sangeet has 12 internationally reputed accreditations in behavioral psychology and leadership, and that is the order of the day now. He has won several awards and accolades, including the Sheikh Hamdan Award for the most distinguished family. He's also part of the 100 Global Minds in Learning and Development. He's a motivational speaker, business excellence consultant, trainer, youth empowerment specialist. And finally, he expresses the purpose of his life as Mission Inspire 1 Million. I can go on, but all of you are eagerly waiting for the keynote speaker, Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim from Dubai. Over to you, sir. I request all of you to give him a warm applause and welcome Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Saab, for that energetic and mellifluous introduction. I've looked at the list of speakers who've taken part in this webinar series before. I was like, oh my God, such an illustrious list. It's an honor to be on board, and I hope and pray I would be, inshallah, able to add value. Dr. Saab, Colonel Saab, Professor Saab, the other faculty members, stakeholders, and my dear friends, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. It's not a question of how well you speak, right? It's a question of the impact that you make. So every time you join a Zoom call, you hear people asking you, can you see me? Can you hear me? I think we need to be reminded of the fact that there are a lot of people out there who cannot be seen and who cannot be heard. And I think it's our responsibility to use all these faculties that God has given us, the blessings that God has given us, to make them seen and to make them heard. So may God bless us with the opportunities and the competencies to do so. Thank you, Lifna, for that beautiful rendition of Al-Fatiha. I was just, listening to the way she was reciting it, and I said, "This sounds familiar," and then, of course, you had the translation on screen as well. My dear friends, I'm not looking at a very formal session. Okay, so sit back and relax. What I honestly believe, I've worked with a lot of students and professionals in the last 15 to 20 years. I don't look that old, but I've really worked with lots of them. And what I honestly believe is that there's a huge gap between your potential and your performance. Your potential is what you can be, what you can do, and your performance is what you're doing currently. And I'm talking about every one of us. Yeah, there's a huge gap. Potential could be here and your performance could be here. And if you look at that gap closely, you'll see that I call them spoilers. There are a lot of spoilers in the gap. And these spoilers can be within you, lack of proper goals or lack of ambition or lack of grit and determination. And all these spoilers could be outside you. Yeah, lack of support, lack of guidance, lack of the right environment. Now, if you can identify these spoilers and destroy them, defeat them one by one, then what happens is you're able to perform to your fullest potential. And that's amazing, the things that you can do and the lasting impact that you can make. So I consider it as my purpose to support people, to remove those spoilers, to obliterate those spoilers, to make those spoilers irrelevant so that you can live up to their potential. And I'm glad that I'm getting an opportunity to do so today as well. So may Almighty guide us all. And I hope and pray, inshallah, that this session will be useful. And you'll go back with some good ideas and good action points, which you'll act upon to have an impact in your life. Let me start with a story of a study that we conducted. I think it was 3 years back. 6 of my colleagues, all of them in learning and development, in coaching, motivational speaking from around the world, we came together and we said, let's conduct a study. Let's look at our classmates, okay, people who studied with us, who are doing exceptionally well today. So most of us were in our mid-40s, okay? So we said, let's look at our peers who are really successful today across industries, entrepreneurs, people in social work, people in the corporate segment. And then let's rewind, okay? And look at how they were as students, how they were when they were your age, studying at a university. And let's try to see whether there's any correlation between their performance, their attitude, their behaviors, their habits as students and success in current life. Okay, so very interesting. It took quite a while, and now we are in the process of getting the study published. Okay, so people in academia would look at it seriously. Yeah. What I want to do first is share some insights from the study. Of course, I've taken away the boring academic stuff, and I've included only the most relevant part for you. So allow me to share my screen. Okay. Colonel Saab, are you able to see my screen? Colonel Saab, are you able to see my screen?
We can see. Dr. Sangeet, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. Okay. So what we found is that we could classify students into 3 categories. Okay. The blinkers, the sinkers, and the winners. Now, I'll quickly explain what each category is. First, the blinkers. Now, these are students, okay, who focused or who spend 100% of their time pursuing academic glory. Okay, all they think about is exams and internals and labs and marks and mark sheets and credentials. Okay, now I had a close friend who used to go to the mess early so that he wouldn't have to spend time talking to people. Okay, so he can come back and study. It was from him, you know, what he used to do is in the evening when we used to go to each other's hostel rooms, he used to take a chalk and draw a line across his bed, around his bed, and said, "Don't cross this line." Okay, because if you come in, I'm not able to learn. And in fact, I heard the word civic sense from him first, because we used to play those days Bran Adams, Summer of '69. That used to be quite popular. So we used to play that song. Guns N' Roses used to come and say, "Don't you have any civic sense?" And we didn't have Google to check the meaning of civic sense, So I came to know that it's all about behaving appropriately in public. Now, these kind of students who spend 100% of their time pursuing academic glory, that's great, that's amazing. What happened to them when we looked at how they progressed in their career span? Okay, they got into good universities, they got into good organizations to start with, but after a while they started stagnating. And the reason we found is that because they were spending 100% pursuing academic glory, they didn't get the opportunity to develop those crucial life skills, particularly skills of interacting with people, managing people, developing rapport, developing influence, so on and so forth. So they started getting stuck somewhere in the process. Yeah. Then we have this category of sinkers. Now, these were students who were there on a paid holiday. Okay. They had only one objective, and that objective was to have fun. So attending classes, taking part in, studying for internals, taking part in projects, all these were distractions. For them, it was just about how do I maximize my pleasure. So trips and having fun and bunking classes and singing at the cafeteria. Now, what happened to these guys, unfortunately? Okay, we had a huge target audience to study from the segment. Unfortunately, all of them struggled, couldn't get into good jobs, couldn't succeed in their business ventures as well initially. But some of them later on, after a lot of struggle, went through a lot of pain and had some life-changing situations, and then they got back on track. But the majority of them are either struggling or even stuck there in the past. They don't attend alumni meetings. They don't even keep in touch with their friends, most of them. I had an opportunity to interview some of these professionals. And when I started talking about college days, they said, "I don't want to talk about that." And I asked why. He said, "It looks dark." Now, that's the mechanism that God has given us. If we don't really strive and try to reach our potential, that leads to intense self-hatred. Intense self-hatred. Psychology is a weird thing where you really start hating yourself for not doing what you were supposed to do at the time you were supposed to do it. And these people were really struggling. Now, the third category, I call them winners. Now, these are the smart guys. Okay, be with me. Okay, these are the smart guys. For a while I was doing my engineering, I was a sinker as well. Just got lost. Okay, and there was only one thing in the agenda which was freaking out. I had an old Maruti 800 car, KD 5485, all fancy stickers, and we were spending a lot of time hanging out, doing everything that we shouldn't do. For me, the trigger was the campus placement drive that was conducted. Okay, and I realized that all these guys that we used to ridicule and make fun of because we used to consider ourselves as heroes, we found that we were nowhere in the picture, and was so-called, the guys that we used to ridicule was getting placed and getting into good jobs and fancy pay packets and all that. Now, the winning category, the rare category, okay, for them, they focused on academics, definitely. So they would listen well in class, they would take notes, make sure that they're not distracted, go back to the hostel and spend at least an hour or so, 90 minutes, that was the average time, 90 minutes back in the hostel, following up on what was learned, asking questions, getting back to tutors, checking with higher performers, if they had any doubts. And then the rest of the time, and that was eye-opening, the rest of the time they would spend on meaningful activities, debate clubs, NCCs, sports, okay, playing leadership roles in clubs, and then doing a lot of awareness building, speaking to people, reading magazines, understand what's happening, and also having loads and loads of fun. Now, this is the beauty, because when you focus on your academic credentials and when you make sure that's a priority, you still get a lot of time to do what you want to do. In today's world, maybe binge watch Netflix, maybe, yeah? So you really enjoy. Now, these were the students who went on to really do well in their careers on a sustained basis, get into leadership roles, do amazing things, start great organizations, come up with innovative ideas and stuff like that. So how can you be a winner? How can you be a winner? How can you have loads of fun? We understand. I mean, this is a time which is very crucial, right? You're spending the most beautiful time of your life in campus. How can you have loads of fun? and still become a winner in later life. Now, I want you to park this thought for the time being, okay? And I want to tell you about another story. Now, this was in I believe 2017 or 2016, when I was invited by the Higher Colleges of Technology, which is the government university here. They've got a lot of colleges, both for boys and girls, arts and science, STEM. They invited me to the governing council, and they requested me to facilitate a session where we had 58 members from the corporate sector, HR and business heads. Our objective was to see, okay, how can a new joiner start performing well at the earliest? So what are the faculties, what are the competencies that these organizations were looking when they recruited new joiners? So you know what we did? We looked at the performance appraisal forms, you know, which usually are used when after a new joiner, after 3 months after a new joiner has joined, or 6 months after a new joiner has joined. And then we put it all together, and then we created a list of crucial critical success factors. So I want to share with you what this is. It was a 2-day activity. In fact, we started off with more than, I believe, 27 competencies and skills. Again, we asked them to prioritize. Choose the top 5, and then we came up with our list. So let me spend the rest of my time available explaining what it is. First, of course, is academic excellence. They said we are looking for students who have performed well academically. So I was the first one to debate it. I said, come on, guys. You know, what we learn in college is very different from what you teach people at work, right? It's extremely different, chalk and cheese. So why this impetus on academic excellence? And that's when they told me, this is something that I knew, but it confirmed that it's not about what you know, but what you become in the process that matters. So they were looking at, in the corporate world today, you don't have 6 months probation periods. They expect you to hit the ground running and start being productive. There's in fact a KPI that's measured, time to productivity. And time to productivity is linked to your recruitment team and also your learning and development team. So they expect you to start generating money, or they expect you to be productive just 45 days after joining. Yeah. So that's what's happening in the best organizations across the world. So when they look at the mark sheet of a student, the kind of ideas that they're generating, oh, this guy is very serious, he's responsible, he's hardworking, okay, he's self-driven, he manages his time very well. Now, these are some of the competencies that they seek from a new joiner. So you need to be brilliant in the academic domain, okay? You might be the smartest guy who can add value to the organization, but if you don't prove that in your mark sheet, you're seen as somebody who's not responsible, seen as somebody who's not self-driven, seen as somebody who's not ambitious. So that's definitely, this is something that's a given. The second is business acumen. So this was chosen as the second most important attribute, okay, for new joiners to succeed in the corporate world. What is business acumen? Guys, can you try answering these questions for me? Is the chat box active? Can we see the chat box?
Yeah, chat box is active.
Okay, you can give me true or false, yeah? Or you can look at the screen and answer the question as well. Today is the oil price, current oil price, is it lower than last year's price? What do you think? Or is it higher than last year's price? Yeah? The Sensex today in India, is it greater than 50,000 or less than 18,000 or greater than 70,000? Which is the largest company in the world? Yeah. So if you're not answering, that's fine. What I want you to do is try coming up with the answers in your brain. So the answer to the first question is it's higher. Second is Sensex is greater than 50,000. Okay. And the largest company in the world is, of course, Apple. Now, regardless of what you're learning, you could be in arts and science, you could be grooming yourself to be an academician, but corporates now expect you to do that, because at the end of the day, you're joining an organization. Guys, this is a mind shift change that I want you to have. Okay. You're not joining an organization to follow your job description, to be in a particular department. Even if you're a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, you are joining an organization to do these 7 things. Because this is what the owners of the organization, the stakeholders of the organization want. What I've done is I've anagramized the words. I didn't want to spell it out to you. So I want you to look at the screen and guess what they are. Yeah. Attract more, Customers, of course. Yeah. So regardless of which department you work in, at the end of the day, your work should be related to this. This is how you have to add value, improve the overall customer experience, reduce costs for the organization day in and day out, develop innovative products and services. So that people make a beeline to your organization. You come up with something unique. People will say, oh, this is totally unique. Let me go and buy it from this place. Optimize the processes, understand customer pain points, and reduce time and reduce errors. Attract and engage people and get the best out of them. And increase revenue and profits. I'm just mentioning this, not just to the students, but also to the staff members of SAFI. Do not be wedded to your job description where you say, oh, I'm supposed to do A to B or A to Z. This is these are my deliverables. Your deliverables are fluid. Regardless of what you do, at the end of the day, if you're not contributing to any of these 7 points, in today's world, you're not adding value. Because it's not a question of how many times you run up and down the court. The question is, what is the score on the scoreboard? Yeah. So regardless of what you do, this is what you need to contribute. So you need to know how a business makes money. Okay. You need to know how a business loses money. You need to know how a business comes up with new ideas. How does it grow? How does it entice customers to buy from them? So this is something that you need to work on. And all across all these 58 business heads, HR managers, they said business acumen is something that I need to look at. How do you develop business acumen? Guys, you can take a screenshot of this. Okay, so these were 3 books that we have a benchmarking forum, and we keep coming up with suggestions for students. 3 books. One is the Lean Startup. The other one is Traction, and the third is a Business Acumen Handbook. Highly recommended. You can even get PDF versions, and I would recommend that the SAFI library, 10,000 books, mashallah. Yeah, my dad always used to say, "Aksharangala pujikanam mone, akkangale alla." He says, respect words more than numbers. So 10,000 books, amazing. So I would strongly recommend that you procure 3 books and you make sure that our students go through it. So you need to clearly have business acumen. The third one is future tech. Okay, I'm here to motivate people, but I want to also give you certain nightmares, because guys, the corporate world is changing so fast. Let me talk about Dubai. Okay, I work at First Abu Dhabi Bank. There was another bank called Emirates NBD. Emirates NBD has closed more than 20-25 branches in the last couple of months because jobs have become irrelevant. Robotic process automation that has come in, and that's doing everything that we could do. Previously, it was a low-end jobs, but now even the high-end cognitive intellectual jobs are being taken away. So sorry, I don't have India-specific information here, but I'm sure you'll get the idea. What you see on screen is a representation of the jobs in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. I'm based in Dubai, so you can see the columns there. The jobs and the potential to be automated. So you can see manufacturing industry, it's orange. So we're talking about 60 to 70% of the jobs can be automated today. We're not talking about Back to the Future and Michael J. Fox. We're talking about now, could be automated now. Education, yes. So SAFI stakeholders don't have to be worried. Education, a teacher's job, because it's so complicated, it's so deep, cannot be automated right now, but the rest of them, you can see what's happening. So I'm sure you would have chosen your majors by now. I don't want to scare you, because I'm sure probably the respective subject heads will feel angry if I drop a name. But guys, I invite you to check this website. It's called Will Robots Take My Job? Okay, it's an AI-based engine. Go and enter the name. You want to be a lawyer, or you want to be an engineer, you want to be a teacher, you want to be an accountant. Enter your profession and you'll get the automation percentage that's possible right now. And you're like, oops, oh my God, I need to retrace. Yeah, I need to go back, because that's how things are. So my strong recommendation for you guys is, regardless of what your stream is, start becoming more conversant with AI and machine learning. Okay, you know what AI is, right? All these gadgets that we have, okay, these digital assistants, everything is based on AI. Know about blockchain, guys. If I could highlight that, you need to know about blockchain. Now it's not, let me tell you, there's a benchmarking group of HR professionals, okay? And I used to be a star there because I used to be quite well-read. I used to know about behavior change and all that. Last 1.5 years, I realized that I was losing clout. because every discussion is about blockchain and AI. And then I started reading, I started attending courses, because you don't keep up. You can't rest on your laurels and say, endo poopak or anandarnu in Malayalam we say, I used to be a hero long back. No, these are the things that will make you, stand above the rest right now. You need to know coding. Oh no, I'm not an IT engineer, but regardless, you need to probably start with HTML and then JavaScript and get into a little bit of Python. You need to know data analytics and visualization. Go beyond Excel, because these are the tools, especially when you're being interviewed in the future. These are some of the questions people can ask. So again, you can take snapshots, guys. What I've done is I've provided some screenshots of free resources. I don't know how many of you know this. There's this site called edX, where you can take free courses from Harvard. You can take free courses from Stanford. You can take free courses from Wharton. Absolutely free. If you want to get a certificate, you'll have to pay probably, $75 or something, but strongly recommend. So by the time you pass out, you can have a certificate with your name from Stanford on coding or AI or whatever it is. Yeah. So edX is one site. This is another site. If you want to know about blockchain, absolutely free. Okay. So strongly recommended. I'll be sharing the slide deck with, I think, Aminunisa. Yeah. The MC, who's doing such a wonderful job. So probably you could then share it with the audience as well. This is another one, free courses on machine learning. Okay. And Udemy, of course, if you want to know about data analysis courses, you can get them free. A couple of my free courses are also available on Udemy. Last year, I was I was a project manager for an employee right sizing project. We had KPMG coming in to see which jobs could be made redundant. So I was able to learn a lot of things from them, and I converted them into a free course. So this is available. You could go and search and know on what basis do organizations decide whether you are adding value and whether your job is something that they want to keep as well. Slightly above your level now, I'm speaking to students, but do check it out as well. Yeah. So academic excellence, business acumen, future tech. Finally, I'm coming down to the last two. Okay. Interpersonal skills. Guys, hear me out. This is something that I know from practical experience. Regardless of what you have up here, regardless of the credentials that you have and the certificates that you put on the screen, okay, regardless of the number of experience that you have here, what matters in your professional life and your personal life as well is the quality of your relationships. So every time you guys open your mouth, you can either say things which will build commitment. People will say, yes, let us work for Sangeet. Okay, which will bring collaboration. Let's say, yes, let us support Sangeet. Or you can say things which can build resentment, as like, what is this moron saying? I'm against him, which will make people fight with you. And then build resistance, saying that I'll sabotage his efforts. Every single word that you say. And you need to please work on those skills which will allow you to get along well with people, which will allow you to bond with people. Get them along, okay? Influence them so they come and support you, and together you move towards your goals. So what I want to advise to SAFI is, not an advice, just a suggestion, I'm not being patronizing, is that there's a very simple model that we coaches use, okay, in interpersonal skills. It's a very simple model, the passive, assertive, aggressive model. And that's very impactful as well, extremely impactful as well. So what I want the students to do is to focus on what I'm explaining. Are you a passive person or are you an aggressive person? My study shows that whenever I've spoken at universities, more than 80% of students say that they're passive. Now, you're passive if you cannot say no if you want to. Somebody's asking you to do something and there's something stopping you from saying no. Okay? Or you want to express your opinion. Everybody is saying left, A is right, B is wrong, and you differ, but you cannot state that. You feel, oh, I don't want to state that. Okay. You keep quiet when others speak disrespectfully to you. Okay. You're in the bus and you've stood up and a lady comes in and you've stood up and you've vacated your seat for her, but another lady comes and others are not getting up and you want to tell them, guys, get up. There's a lady here. We need to honor them, but you can't speak. Yeah. And you don't complain when your rights are denied. On the other hand, you have people who are very aggressive, it's like my way or the highway, you're always correcting people, always speaking to people rudely. getting angry, feeling that I need to put people down, and attacking people and enjoying it. So usually you find people shifting between these two extremes. So I've got some examples for you. You know, you go to a restaurant and the food received is bad. If you're passive, what do? If you're passive, you'll sit and eat, saying that, oh no, I don't want to make an issue. Yeah, let's see, let's not come here again. But if you're aggressive, you'll say, call the manager. Don't you know who I am? How dare you serve food like this? All drama. If a colleague has borrowed something from you and has not returned it, if you're passive, you'll say, that's okay. Passive people, I used to be a very passive person. And passive people usually come up with the excuse saying that I'm nice. It's not nice, yeah. You're nice if you can do it and you still choose not to. It's not nice when you're weak and you can't handle the emotions and you're coming up with that niceness mask. Yeah. So somebody has borrowed something from you, and Colonel, let's defame Colonel Saab for some time. Colonel Saab has borrowed something from you and he's not giving it to you. It's like saying, you don't want to. You drop hints, Colonel Saab, that week money, but you can't just go and speak to him and get what you want. Or on the other hand, you sort of put him down in public and you assassinate his character. If someone criticizes your work, you stand up and say, yes, boss, yes, sir. That's when you're passive. And when he turns around, you sort of badmouth him. Or you fight back and say, have you talked about my work? Haven't you seen your work? Sometimes passive people, they explode probably at the wrong people. Maybe the parents, maybe the spouse, maybe the guy on the road. Or you become a very dangerous category called passive aggressive, where you smile and agree, and then you go back and sabotage. You gossip and you badmouth people, you put people down. Yeah. So my whole point is, you guys need to work on becoming assertive, where you say, I could be the cleaner, you could be the CEO, but respect me and I respect you. You could be a very learned person, but what you're saying, I have a different point of view and I want to say it. It is my right to say no when I feel I want to say no. Never say yes when you want to say no. Express yourself. Now, in the corporate world, guys, we still have a lot of patriarchy, and we still have a lot of, probably centuries old attitude. So when you join as a new joiner, especially the first 6 months, they expect you to be passive. And then when you become a manager, they expect you to be aggressive. Yeah, my manager has told me many times, Sangeet, you're too nice to people. I say, yes, what's wrong? I'm getting my results. I'm getting things done. Oh no, Sangeet, your people are not scared of you. I said, people being scared? We're all adults. Why should someone be scared of someone else? So you need to really get into that assertive groove and work towards that. Finally, let me talk about, I'm mindful of time as well. Yeah, finally, I'm talking about presentation skills. Okay. Now, guys, let me tell you what happens. Every year, we take a batch of around 60 new joiners. Yeah, they come into the organization and we put them through different training programs. Now, in the 5th or 6th month, we've got a graduation ceremony. And in this graduation ceremony, we've got the CEO and probably the board members and the top brass attending. So we call all of them 1 month before the event and say, guys, this is the graduation ceremony. We want one of you to speak. And all of them will put their heads down. So we're saying, what? You get an opportunity to speak. I was like, look at this. One guy might just put his head up to see whether everything is okay, and we'll pounce on him. We'll say, yeah. Oh, thank you for volunteering. You want to speak? Yeah, and we coach him and we train him. Okay. But imagine his name is Ahmed. Now, what happens is that on that day, in that batch of 60, the CEO gets to hear only. Okay. 1 week later, when the CEO is walking and he finds a batch of fresh graduates walking down the aisle, who does he remember? He remembers only Ahmed. So your opportunity to stand up and speak, oh my God, that's one skill that I really, really encourage you to develop, because there are very few of us who can stand up and speak convincingly. And if you know what you're speaking about, if you've done your research, and if you can stand up and speak, now that gives you an amazing head start. Okay. So the whole point is, how do you develop this? My recommendation to you would be at least one TED talk a day. Again, a free resource. Yeah. You go to TED.com. I'm there. I have 2 sessions on TED. So you can Google it up. You can watch TED and build. Now, you know how I learned to speak, how I develop myself. Dr. Amir was saying, right? You need to constantly develop yourself in whatever domain you're in. For me, you know how I develop in speaking? For example, I'll listen to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a speaker that I really admire. Yeah, so I'll listen to Tony Robbins. After 2 minutes, I'll pause it. Now, once I've heard him, I'll understand what he spoke about, right? I'll comprehend what he's talked about. Then I'll try to stand up and I'll speak the same concept in my own words. And after I've spoken, I look back and say, "Oh my God, Sangeet, yuck! Doesn't make any sense. You know, you didn't use the right words. You didn't pause appropriately. You didn't walk around. You didn't use your gestures. So you get to use Tony Robbins as your coach. Just imagine, Tony Robbins would charge an arm and a leg to be someone's coach, but you get to learn from him. Guys, if you want to improve your language, this is my dad. He was an academician, Professor A.P. Ibrahim, was a principal of Madapalli College. Passed away, Allah Rahmah, may God bless his soul. He used to tell me, Sangeet, the best way for you to improve your language is to take books of fiction. Those days, Robert Ludlum and Harold Robbins, and not fiction of a very high caliber, but you know what I used to do based on his advice? I used to read a passage, just 2 or 3 lines. Okay, then once I understood what the author was trying to say, close it and then write it in my own words. And then you compare, and then you see, oh my God, look at this, chalk and cheese. So how can I improve? What words can come in? How can I change my style? So for those who are really looking, teachers are all around. You have free resources available. Every resource that I mentioned, edX, be it TED, be Udemy, all of them are free. Just a question of finding the right time to develop those competencies. There's, guys, one thing that I forgot to mention when I talked about interpersonal skills, and I want your full attention here, guys. There's a new concept for you. It's called DQ. DQ is not Dulquer Salman, okay? I know, DQ, probably you've heard about IQ, you've heard about EQ. DQ stands for diversity quotient. Diversity quotient. Now, I don't want you to give me an answer, but I'll give you a quick way to measure your diversity quotient. I want you all to close your eyes. I can see Colonel Saab and Anisun Nisa. I can't see anybody else. So close your eyes, yeah. And I want you to think of your closest 5 friends. Think of the names of your closest 5 friends. These are people that you confide in. These are people you go for support. These are people who know anything about you. Open your eyes, please. Now, let's take a DQ of yours in the area of religion. You don't have to give me the answer. Are all these 5 friends from the same religion? Then your DQ is equal to 1, because it's 1, divided by 5 friends into 120%. That's the lowest DQ that you can get. But if they're all from different religions, you get a DQ of 100%. Similarly, you can look for language, you can look for race. And you know why this is important, guys? For me, I was lucky to be a part of a Government of Dubai initiative to study the link between diversity, tolerance, and economic success. Yeah, and what we have found is the more diverse your network is, the better your ideas are, the more robust your ideas are, the more sustainable your ideas are, and the more successful you would be. So you need to work on your diversity quotient, especially in a country like India, where from Kerala you travel, 100 kilometers in any direction, the food changes. In Karnataka, they put sugar in sambar. I don't know whether you know this. The landscape changes, the costumes change, culture change, everything changes. With that kind of diversity that we have in our country, social harmony is a must. I've got a graph that I can show you, because in a country like us, when we don't have social harmony, our economic growth nosedives. So we need to be ambassadors of diversity. We need to work on our diversity quotient. My mom, I was sharing this with Colonel Nizar. My mom, her name is Dr. Aisha. She's 82 years old. God bless her. Not keeping very well now. I just traveled to India and I spent some time with her. Yeah. So she is a doctor, passed out from Trivandrum Medical College, probably the 2nd batch. But there's an interesting fact about her, about this mellow, mild, timid lady. She served in the Indian Navy as a captain. She was Captain Dr. Aisha Ibrahim, served on INS Sanjeevani, and even served in one Indo-Pak war. Yeah. So every time I go home and I tell her that I speak to students, she tells me, I want you to say something to them wherever you go. I want you to tell them to be united. I want you to tell them that we are all one. Scratch the surface. Every difference that you see is superficial. Things that unite us are much more than things that divide us. So be one, stay one. So this is for you, Uma. Yeah. So be mindful of your diversity quotient, particularly when you work on your interpersonal skills. And I've already talked to you about presentation skills. So now, guys, I want to, if we have time for Q&A, I want to give you a beautiful technique which helps you to improve yourself. Because at the end of the day, we need to move from performance to potential, right? This is called a checklist, okay? A checklist for every day. So what I want you to do, probably only 5% of you will do it, but I would like to strongly advise, is ask yourself this question, maybe after Maghrib Salah or in the evening or something, ask yourself this question. Did I do my best today too? On a scale of 1 to 10. Did I do my best today too? Number 1, excel in academics, develop business acumen. 3rd, master future tech. 4th, build interpersonal skills. 5th, hone your presentation skills and have loads of fun. No excuses, yeah? You don't need money to develop in any of these areas. I've given you a lot of free resources. It's just a question of attitude and willingness. So ask yourself every day, did I do my best today on a scale of 1 to 10? So Anisun Nisa and Lifna, they're going to do this every day, inshallah. Yeah, they're going to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe they give themselves 6, maybe because they didn't do their best today. So then they need to ask themselves, what do I do to make it a 7 tomorrow? What do I do to make it an 8 tomorrow? So this is a daily checklist reminder. Now, I'll tell you from the study that we conducted, if you're getting the response, if you're rating yourself high only in academics, then you become a blinker. This is Sheldon. I don't know whether you watched the Sheldon series. Then you become a blinker. People with blinkers on will be initially successful, but then will get stuck. But if you get 0, 0, 0 for everything, and if your score is loads of fun, guys, the self-hate is going to kill you. You know, imagine, for me, I had an opportunity, PSG College of Technology, they conducted an event on their 75th anniversary. And they selected 25 of their alumnus to be honored, and I had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater to receive an award called the Rising Star. And for me, I'm not bragging, but that feeling, you know, when your teachers honor you is amazing. So don't spend time in ruthless ways where you will hate yourself in the future. But if you get a yes, a 10 out of 10 for everything, then you become like RDJ, you become like Iron Man, yeah? You become somebody who is extremely intellectual, successful, and yet cool. So don't get this wrong. You can be absolutely successful and you don't have to be a nerd. You can do what you want to and still have loads of time to have fun. One recommendation to the university, Colonel Saab, I was involved in setting up an employability lab at the University of West London here as part of my pro bono work, of course, where we created an employability lab. I'm sure SAFI would be doing a lot to equip your students, but we focused on these 6 competencies, 6 areas. And what we do is we do a pre-testing and post-testing for students, and we do interventions on this. So everything that you do, maybe a webinar, you know, the next webinar could be on future tech, whatever. Those are all means to a particular end, and then they're process driven and results driven. So we say we had 100 students in our final and pre-final year, and this is where they scored when we started the employability lab, and this is where they are when we concluded it. So again, very simple models which can make people, you know, give them a purpose as well. Guys, I particularly want to address those who are not doing really well in academics. Yeah, sometimes the best talents, the most energetic ones would be seen among those ranks and those ranks. Yeah. What I want you guys to do is to reach that next level where you also excel in academics is extremely simple. Extremely simple. We have done that with hundreds of students. It's a question of self-efficacy. It's a question of trying and then failing. And then when you get it, you're like, oh, this is easy. Then that becomes part of yourself. So don't give up. Okay. We want you to be winners as well. Jazakumullah khair. That's it. What I want to say. No hi-fi stuff, but purely from my experience, practical, impactful models. And I hope and pray that you'll, inshallah, ponder, try to implement, and then reap its benefits. Yeah. Colonel Sab, over to you. Sorry, Anis, over to you.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderful. I mean, I had so many things that I wanted to tell, especially since our students are sitting there and they don't have an access to the chat box. I think there would be some restrictions for them to ask you questions. But at a point, I would like to share this. When you were talking about this, like, am I too nice or just incapable of being assertive? That's a question that I want to ask myself. Maybe I would take so much time to ponder upon that, because yeah, I just assume that I'm too nice, but I know that sometimes it is not about being nice or too nice. It's about that incapability to ask people what I believe that ought to be mine, but I'm not able to do that sometimes. Yeah, sometimes after becoming a teacher, I think I'm getting into the kick of it. Eventually, I'll be there. And I don't want to be aggressive, but yeah, I want to be assertive someday. I'll achieve that. And then about the presentation skills and interpersonal skills, I always say to my students, I actually am a faculty in English department here. And yeah, been 3 years or so. So I always talk to these people, students from the other departments, that even though you know so many things about microbiology or commerce or anything, if you don't have this ability to talk in a language, especially English, since it's called to be a global language, if you're not if you are not able to present it well, there is no need to have so much information filled up in your brain. It doesn't make you look like you know something. So you need to work on your interpersonal skills or presentation skills. Yeah, and I liked that as a person who is so much interested in presentation skills, accent, language, and everything. Yeah. And also, I'm so happy that you told, yeah, when you were showing that graph there, education is a field where automation is not that possible. I'm happy and proud to be a teacher. Inshallah, my job will be there. He won't, will Roberts take my job? That's the name of that site, right? Yeah, I'm happy about that. Anyway, it's a time for Q&A. If anyone has anything to ask or any suggestions or something, you can, maybe the panelists have something. We don't have a way to access us to, give access to our students since they're sitting there. If somebody have to ask something, you can ask the panelists especially, or we can move on to the next step.
I think Dr. Sevin Wesley, sir, are you in the auditorium? If somebody has got any question, give him the mic or give her the mic. Or, you can ask the question on behalf of the students, whatever way you feel good. And Dr. Sangeet said, thank you so much. It was something like, water flowing, it's so beautiful. The Chalia River I can see in front of me. Beautiful. And your voice was something, very, very soothing and wonderful it was. And I have only one question. You talked about that basic, how to go about the whole thing. And it is very important to do the first assessment, then the final one. In between, you have to do the interventions. What can we do about it from the college side? Because we have a big number. We have about 1,750 students. So how do you break it? I think it can only be done by department wise or the class wise. Otherwise, it may not work for a person to carry out the test, then do the interventions one by one, because it has to be personal. Because that student should know what is he or she lacking as far as communication or whatever let it be. So how do we go about it? If you can give some.
Sure. Colonel Sab, let me share examples of what we've done at this university that I've associated with. When it comes to future tech and business acumen, it was easy. We just had questionnaires, online questionnaires on Microsoft Forms, which students would answer. So we know where the threshold is, with respect to every class. So we take the averages. And then what we do is we do things called learn and review, something quite simple. So a PDF document is shared. with 10 or 11 relevant facts about blockchain and whatever. And then we conduct monthly quizzes. Okay, so these quizzes are not graded. These quizzes are just for people to attempt and sort of understand their own level of comprehension at any point. And then we do an assessment after 6 months, and we see that we are not pushing people. Learn and review, it's not mandatory. So read this and then attempt this quiz so you'll know where you are. And that has led to an increase. Similarly, we have followed an approach for business acumen. We have brought in Toastmasters, the Gable Club. We've encouraged students to join Gable Club. We created a Toastmasters group for the university, where we're having regular coaching sessions. This year, we're planning to conduct a TEDx UWL. Yeah, so when it comes to interpersonal skills and leadership skills, aligning with the Toastmasters model helped. But the most important thing where I'm really adding value, so most important for me, of course, I hope it's for the university as well, is the interpersonal skills. So what we've done is we had a self review questionnaire which was administered on the behavior patterns of students. So we used MBTI, we used DISC, we used the AAP, the aggressive, assertive, passive. And then what I'm doing, Colonel Saab, it's every month I'm doing group coaching sessions. So in the group coaching sessions, we don't have an agenda. Okay, we just give, for example, how do you handle a bully? As an example. And then we ask the students to come up with their own personal experiences. And then I advise them on what they could do instead, the current level of behavior and the expected level of behavior. So this is working out to be really, really good. So every month we have a session. Again, the trust has been established. The students really open up and then we help them. And over a period of time, we get feedback that, it's really equipping them with the skills, because it's more like a campaign, right? It's not like a hit and run case. So we have these regular campaigns every month, and that's really helping. Yeah, I hope I've answered the question.
I'm more interested in the intervention methods. How do you do that personally?
One example that we had, for example, something that we did around 2 months back is saying no to authority or saying no to somebody who's powerful. Yeah. So we, again, when we were running virtual sessions, we had a lot of constraints, but now we have started face-to-face as well. So we quickly explain the theory to them and then tell them, so what are the techniques? So there's a method called DESC that could be used. And then we give them case studies, and later they have to come up with role plays where I act as the bully and I act as somebody who's pushing them, and they have to come back, and then the feedback is given to them. So we give an opportunity for that real behavior to be solicited, and then feedback is given as to how they performed actually.
Yeah. Thank you. And listeners, you have got some questions in the chat also. Could you read it out, please?
Yeah, sure, sir. So this would be the last question we are addressing. Actually, the only question. Yeah. How to tackle stage fear and underconfidence? Yeah, that's the question.
Okay. Zakina has asked the question. Is it Zakina Sidi?
Yeah.
Stage fright.
She is my wife, Dr. Sangeet, for your kind information. She's, I think, a FB fan of yours.
Oh, really? Oh, I do remember. Okay. Good to meet you. Yeah. Ma'am, number one, I believe it's good to have some stage fright. I'm nervous before every session, though this is what I do every day. And I'm not just trying to project a very humble face, because there's an inverted U graph in psychology. It shows that if you're slightly nervous, slightly aroused, slightly pressurized, your performance is better. So anybody who says that, I don't have any fear in the world, yeah, thank you, your performance will also be lackluster. So you'll have to have some amount of fear. The question is how to control that fear before that sort of drains you. Yeah. So when it comes to public speaking, what you guys need to understand, all the young potential speakers need to understand, is you might be nervous, but don't think that your audience is seeing it. Your audience doesn't see it. It's not obvious. So you might be your legs might be shaking, you might be fidgeting, but it's not obvious to the audience. Yeah. Number two, every public speaker can vouch. You're nervous only for the first few seconds. But after that, the moment, so it's only a question of, pushing through those first few seconds. And how do you do that? Number one, practice. Number two, visualization. Don't just go for visualization. You will have a lot of NLP trainers coming and saying, you visualize, it doesn't work. You need to practice and you need to visualize. There's something called self-efficacy. After you do something well, after a lot of practice and people tend to appreciate you, your mind gets convinced, Sangeet, you're good at this. Hey, Sangeet, people are appreciating you good at. So next time your fear reduces. So for you to get better at public speaking, your institution, I would invite the institution to provide as many opportunities as possible. As many opportunities as possible. Be ready to fail, flounder, fall flat on the face. We call it failing in a safe environment. And guys, please read about the growth mindset. Yeah. The growth mindset says that your brain is fluid. So you cannot sit back and say, "Ayyo, njan orikkalum nannavilla speaking," or "I cannot be a good speaker." You're not a good speaker yet. And the makkalodu, sorry for shifting to Malayalam, I wanted to make it more soulful. And the makkalodu njan eppoഴും പറയുന്നതാണ്, use the word yet. I'm not good at math yet. I'm not good at public speaking yet. I'm not good at football yet. Because your brain, subhanallah, has got the potential to be molded, provided you have the right motivation and the right, we call it deliberate practice, and the right feedback. The critical, you can, I'm not saying everyone will become a Messi, because the variables are too many, but you can become a much, much better version of what you are in every single field that you choose. If you want to be a good speaker, listen to TED Talks every day. As many opportunities as possible, speak. And the Wheatle, what I try is, both my kids are TED speakers, and by God's grace, they've won a lot of public speaking competitions. I do something called impromptu speaking. Futtaka guy changer, when we're just sitting, I'll say, guys, topic, the blue rainbow. Okay. Or I'll say, topic, and it rained in the desert. And the topic, when I found a gold locket in the floor, speak. Endu tettum parayam. Let the grammar be bad, let the diction be bad, pronunciation be bad, no judging. Speak. So that fear goes away. It's absolutely okay to fail. Who am I? Yeah? Who am I? I make a mistake while speaking. It's okay. Who am I? I'll make it better next time. Don't tag it to your self-image and self-worth. Yeah. So you're not good speakers yet. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am Zakina, it's a pleasure to interact with you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your response, sir. And thank you for addressing that problem too. We all have that, a moment of stage fear and everything, how much or however fluent we are in language, or however good we are with what we do. Thank you so much. And this is a certificate. This is a token of gratitude towards you, please, sir.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're so happy to, to have you here with us. Now we are going to wind up our program. Let me move on to invite our respected principal, Professor E.P. Imbichikoya, for proposing the formal vote of thanks. With this outstanding guidance and vision, he has always been our pillar of strength. And I can't name a more befitting person to conclude today's episode. Please, sir.
Warm good evening, one and all. The respected resource person of today's webinar.
Little louder, sir. Little louder.
Okay. A respected resource person of this webinar, Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim, who is the Vice President and Head of Learning and Talent Development UAE. Dr. Amir Ahmed, the Secretary of SAFI. Dr. Ms.
Can't hear, sir. Can't hear. Embichi, sir.
No, sir, he's audible.
I can't. There's something wrong with me. Then.
Could it be a network issue at your end, sir? Because we can hear him.
Okay, yeah. Fine. Sorry.
Colonel Nisar Ahmed Sidi and all the faculties and the students. As we know, we have been watching to or listening to the resource person, Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim, who did a very wonderful speech and also interaction with the students and the faculty. We know today is the 7th episode of the SAFI webinar series. And every month we are coming with the new persons with new subjects. Today, the subject was the strategies for excellence. As far as the students and the faculty are concerned, and also the alumni, the subject is very important because the excellence is the most important word we are talking in this particular era. So on behalf of the SAFI family, I extend all my gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Sangeet Ibrahim, for his presence and also for making a wonderful speech by considering all the stakeholders of our institution. So on behalf of all the SAFI family, I once again take this opportunity to thank you all from my bottom of heart. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Amir Ahmed, the Secretary of SAFI, who is the inspiration for conducting this sort of program. And I also take this opportunity to thank Mr. Colonel Nisar Ahmed Sidi, who introduced the guest in a most befitting manner. So,
It's frozen, right?
It's
Yeah.
paused. I can't hear. And is it okay? Am I audible?
You're audible now, Colonel Sahab.
Okay. I think Professor Imbichi says.
Yeah,
network.
there has been a glitch in the network. I too lost you guys for a moment there.
Okay.
Yeah, but should we wait for him, or it's kind of late? So shall we
It's
proceed to the national-
almost done. No, almost done.
Yeah, I guess so. So let's have a national anthem finally to sum it up all in a nice way. Colonel Nisar Ahmed Sidi sir will lead it.
Janagana mana adhinayak jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchal Jaladi Taranga Tav Shubh Name Jage Tav Shubh Ashish Mage Gahe Tav Jay Gatha Janagana Mangal Dayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidada Jaya